Hola from Portugal. Hi, it's Gwen here. Well, it's been an eventful few months since the last video in my Moving to Portugal Solo Over 50 from the USA series. Still working under my D7 visa, dealing with some Portuguese bureaucracy. I'll talk more about that later. But loving my new life here in Portugal. And that is largely due to where I've decided to live in Portugal, which is the topic of this video. If you've been watching the videos in this series, you know that I am passing on to you all of the things that I have learned and am learning in my move to Portugal to help you in your endeavor in moving to Portugal from the USA as well. And where you move from really does dictate the rules that you have to follow in moving to Portugal. People from the EU have it much easier. People from Canada, Australia, or wherever have different rules. So if you're from the US and wanting to move to Portugal, then this video series can help you. If you are over 50, solo like me, and moving to Portugal from the USA, then and specifically under the D7 visa, then this video series will definitely help you because that's me. So go ahead and subscribe, get notified, like, and share this video with anyone that you know that is thinking about or is in the process of moving to Portugal as a solo older American. So let's talk about how to decide where to live in Portugal. Where to live depends on various factors, and each can be different for every individual, and they all should come with considerable thought. So let's go ahead and dive into the 10 factors I think you should be considering so you can know where to decide to live in Portugal. Number 1, location. Portugal offers diverse regions with unique characteristics like cost of living, weather, culture, infrastructure, outdoor and indoor activities, and more. Coastal areas like in the Algarve and cities like Lisbon and Porto definitely have a lot to offer, yes, but they are more expensive than the rural areas like the Alentejo, for example. Each region may also offer specific housing incentives and opportunities for particular visas. Larger cities and towns will have more access to transportation methods and cultural events than smaller towns. This is why a scoping trip in Portugal is ideal for you to get a good feel for the different areas and locations to evaluate the pros and cons. Number 2, housing, which goes with cost of living. Make sure to research all the different types of housing available and the total costs that come with them. Will you be buying or renting? Either or. Cities and areas like the Algarve come with higher housing costs in addition to other costs of living expenses like groceries and dining. If buying, get good real estate and legal representation and understand the Portugal laws. And get recommendations for these professional services whenever possible. If renting, some areas may be harder to find an apartment, like the Algarve again, for example. It is considered a holiday destination. So finding a long-term rental for your visa requirement could become tricky. It's also ideal to know you'll be happy with your housing choice for at least the first year you're living in Portugal. This means ensure you're comfortable with your apartment, the rental agreement, and landlord before signing. You can move during this time if need be, but there are many bureaucratic processes in getting settled in your residency permit. Just eliminate any chances of having to move during that first year to save yourself an additional headache. Next up, lifestyle. You'll want to consider all your interests, hobbies, pastimes, all of your activities that you wish to endeavor in your new life in Portugal. Whether you enjoy cultural events, outdoor activities, or historical sites, or just happy frequenting the same restaurants, bars, and shops, choose a location that aligns with your lifestyle preferences. If you want a cosmopolitan atmosphere, lean towards the cities. For quiet and tranquility, lean towards the smaller towns or beach communities. You get the gist. Number 4, community and friends. If you haven't already, look for Facebook groups so you can connect with people and ask questions about the desired area that you're thinking of, and get their view on what it's like to live in that area. Review the municipality's website to learn about groups, activities, and volunteer efforts you can join, and try to schedule meetups with people on your next visit. It's important to be proactive to develop relationships and get to know your prospective community as early as possible. This could lessen the adjustment period when you're moving to Portugal, as well as any chances of loneliness you may feel after you move alone. Which lends to number 5, dating and relationships. You're moving to Portugal solo, right? Well, do you see yourself dating in the future in your new life in Portugal? If so, is the area, city, or town conducive to dating in person, online, or both? How you wish to meet people and date should be considered before you move. Number 6, transportation and accessibility. Assess whether or not you'll be needing a car or relying on walking, biking, or public buses and trains. If the former, having a car does bring more costs and bureaucracy, like driver's licenses and car registration, etc. And Portugal highways have tolls, so find out the rules and total costs of owning a car and driving in Portugal. If the latter, research the city or town's layout and public transportation options and connectivity within your region or beyond. What will be your closest airport, or will you have access to multiple airports? Know how often you'll need to fly, whether within the EU or back and forth to the US on a regular basis for time and financial considerations. Number 7, climate. Of course, Portugal has a wonderful Mediterranean climate, but it does vary from the mountainous regions to the beaches. Consider whether you prefer milder winters in the south or cooler temperatures and more precipitation in the north. The Alentejo is the breadbasket of Portugal and has lovely small towns, cultural sites, and great wineries, but it also gets very hot in the summer. The Algarve is full of sunshine and expansive beaches, but it's also experiencing water shortages. Each area has its own blessings and challenges. If you have medical issues or really base how you feel on the weather, then this is a big factor on choosing where to live. It's ideal to have stayed in your desired location for the summer and winter at least while you're deciding on where to live in Portugal. Number 8, healthcare. Check the availability and quality of all the healthcare services in your desired area. This goes from hospitals to private clinics to dentist offices and more. And if you have any medical issues or certain conditions, make sure that you can get the proper service that you need in your desired area. Number 9, know if you'll have local access to important governmental agencies like the Finanças tax offices, IMA immigration services for permit appointments and renewals, Social Security offices, or taking care of car registration, driver's licenses, etc. If you won't have a local office, just know how far you'll have to travel for the nearest location. And last, employment and education. If you're planning on working in Portugal, first know the conditions of your visa before applying for your visa. Know if your employer will allow you to work remotely. Research the job market in your desired area. Cities like Lisbon and Porto offer more job opportunities, especially in tech, tourism, and the finance sectors. In addition, would you need to or like to continue your education later in life? And if so, see if you have access to a school to do so. I hope these top 10 factors to consider have been helpful in getting you thinking on how best to decide where to live in Portugal. I've said it before and I will say it again. If you've never been to Portugal, you first need to do a scoping trip to best assess firsthand what region, city, or town meets these 10 factors at a minimum to find the perfect place in Portugal you can call home. Let me also reiterate, it's ideal to stay in the same address until you've received your residency permit card and tackled all the other big ticket bureaucratic processes, which hopefully will be completed in your first year before planning on moving anywhere else. For example, I'm now in my 5th month of living in Portugal, still under my D7 visa, which has expired as of last month. And it took me literally hundreds of phone calls to get through to IMA and finally land a residency permit appointment back in March, which is scheduled for later this month. So it's been taking a while. It's been a long and painful process, but it just takes time. If all goes well, I will hopefully have my residency permit card in hand by the end of June. So what does this mean? I can't leave Portugal until I have that residency card in hand. Yeah. And I say if all goes well because I've been hearing on Facebook groups that people are showing up to the IMA appointment and finding it's been canceled with no notification from IMA in advance. Or people are showing up and the computers have been down, and also their appointments are having to be rescheduled as well. Not everyone goes through bureaucratic headaches. Some people skate right on through, but unfortunately that number is very small. Most of us have to deal with some bureaucratic issue in Portugal, and that's how it goes when you are moving from the USA. Patience and time is needed on your part. And speaking of, actually, I think I'm going to make that my next topic in this video series, talking about the time it takes that you have to invest in managing your own affairs, as well as the slow-moving Portuguese bureaucratic system that you are beholden to. So yeah, I think I might do that. Okay, stay tuned for that video. Until then, cross your fingers that my residency permit appointment goes off without a hitch, and subscribe. Keep coming back to CORR Travel so you can get great tips on how to move solo to Portugal over 50 from the USA. All right, until then, take care. Ciao.